All right.
All right, Dan.
All right, then.
All right, Dan.
So we got Taylor, Mr. Taylor Bourque, drummer,
Bonjour.
drummer extraordinary for Writhings. Fucking, what else do you do?
Uh, Try to make things sound as loud and clear as I can for a living.
And I'd say you do a pretty damn good job at it, from what I witnessed, anyway.
Well, I appreciate that very muchly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, from this little tour we did back in January with the goats.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were always investigating beforehand what venue we were going to, what kind of, just from pictures, like what kind of soundboard they have, what kind of monitors, PA system, the whole nine.
Yeah, doing my homework, trying to get ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Our time resources are somewhat limited, and if I want to have any of that left over during the day for myself, I can spend a little bit of it ahead of time.
Yeah. So let's just, for all intents and purposes,
Mm-hmm.
how'd you get your start in that? Like, let's just go back to day one.
Well, I kind of credit the beginning of what became my career with the fact that our local metal bar at the time employed a door guy that did not check IDs. So my friends and I would very frequently attend metal shows underage. And at the time, I had a proclivity for taking apart and reconstructing hi-fi systems. I always enjoyed just playing with speakers and amps for some reason.
Yeah.
And as we started going to more of these shows, I started to realize that they had a sound system there, but no one was ever really operating it.
Right.
Bands had to fend for themselves a lot, and I don't know, kind of just made it known that I'd be interested to start doing that there. It worked out in my favor. That led to me making some connections with some people who ended up becoming friends and mentors of mine. And it kind of just spiraled out from there. But that would be the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
A 17-year-old Taylor sneaking into metal shows underage.
What venues that stick out that where you like got your feet wet? If you could name names.
Well, aside from Club Sin, which is the very first place, everything sort of migrated to a place called Mojo Monkeys for a while.
I remember that place. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little hole in the wall spot that was really kind of a biker bar before, but there was a niche to fill when Club Sin shut its doors. And actually, a lot of the people who worked at Club Sin ended up at Mojo Monkeys, and part of the sound system moved there as well. So I was a sort of natural movement with that too.
Yeah.
But after that, when I started getting more serious, I started taking shows at the Blue Moon Saloon,
Mm-hmm.
which also led to taking shows at Grant Street Dance Hall, again, through meeting people who would become my friends and mentors, and I guess had faith in my capabilities, or at least my work ethic, and
Right.
wanted to recommend me for more stuff and more stuff. So,
And would you say that the more you got exposed to different venues, different clubs here in Lafayette or in the surrounding areas, that with the better gear that they had, you were able to take your career to another level by like seeing what worked, what didn't?
yeah, I mean, and that's still true to this day as the technology continues to evolve. There's always something new to try, a new way, a new workflow, a new creative path you can take. Ways of mixing a band you might not have thought possible at one point are now far beyond easy.
Yeah, I noticed that your job is definitely not easy. It's something mixing using the soundboard. I'm still very curious in what goes into that. I know you have to have an ear for things. I mean, that helps.
That definitely is an important part of it.
Right.
I mean,
but it's, why don't you explain to the journeyman out there exactly, without giving away all Taylor's secret sauce, if you will.
Sure.
Like what is your I guess, your avenue of attack whenever you're like approaching, a band you haven't, played with, you hear what they are about, and then it's like you get contracted out and go.
So, assuming I already know what the band sounds like, more or less, know which genre they are in, or I'm somewhat familiar with what they've put out, I can begin my approach from there. And then it also involves what tools are at my disposal. Am I bringing stuff that I own? Is it stuff the band owns? Is it stuff that the club or event is providing? So from there, I can kind of decide, all right, I'd like to utilize microphone X on source 1. So source 1 being the kick drum. I might have a choice of a couple different microphones. So based on the genre of music, I'm going to pick one. There's your standards out there. There's definitely a set of industry standards as a best practices, if you will.
Right.
But there's also room for taste. And so that's where I start. I look at the genre and I look at the tools that are available. And from there, it kind of depends on what time is available. If there's not a lot of time available, it's kind of like there's a muscle memory involved. And it works a little bit differently on every mixing console out there because they all do the same thing, but they all do them differently. But a channel strip, if you will, on a mixer, it has all the same key and elements. Got a head amp, add sensitivity to the microphone or whatever the source is. You might have a couple of filters to get rid of excessive low frequencies or high frequencies. You have more filters that are commonly known as parametric EQ.
Right.
You may or may not have access to some form of dynamic control, like a compressor or a noise gate or what have you. And so, like I said, there's a sort of muscle memory that comes in. I know with this band and this mic, I would like to achieve this sound with the kick drum. So I just go ahead and start applying some settings that I know will get me in the ballpark before I've even heard it. And once the kick drum comes through, hopefully it speeds me along.
Yeah.
And of course, this is just talking about mixing front of house.
Right.
Monitors has some of its own techniques involved, but go through the whole drum set like this. I mean, it's sort of industry standard practice to start with the drum kit because that's the foundation of rock music.
Exactly.
But we might not be talking about a rock band. We might be talking about
a Zydeco band.
Well,
or
drums are still the foundation
Yeah.
of that, I would dare to say. Okay. But we might be talking about something that doesn't have a drum set. In which case, we try to focus on what's the principal instrument here. If we're looking at like
maybe like an upright bass or something.
You never know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it really comes down to knowing music to start with, and then knowing the gear to follow that up, and then how to marry those two. That's how I've always kind of looked at what I do is a marriage of the art and science. At the end of the day, it's all about enjoying music.
Yeah.
So it's just how I break that up.
I had one of your colleagues and friends, nonetheless, on a Tales from Riff episode, Thorn, who also does sound, and he told me that basically when it comes to doing sound in a venue, is basically you are recording a band minus the studio, like the stage is the recording at the time, and you just got to get as close as you can to how that band sounds, how they would sound live if they were recording a demo or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to sort of expand upon Thorne's idea there, there's a trade-off. In the studio, you have in some cases, the luxury of time and control. Like, you have time to experiment with placements of microphones, with mixing techniques, with re-recording stuff if the first take wasn't good or what have you. And live, you don't have that time. You need to execute it as quickly and as good as possible with the time you're given. But on the flip side, what you do in the studio is there for the record, so to say.
Right.
It's there for eternity, potentially. Whereas when you mix a concert or an event, as soon as the event's over, that's it. So, yeah, they share a lot in common. And really, it kind of just comes down to the same sort of techniques, but that you would use in a studio, but truncated down into like, how can I do this the quickest?
Mm-hmm. You've worked for some notable bands in the metal genre. And, I mean, I just know from firsthand experience, there's a reason why people pick you to go on the road with them. Because, I mean, like you said, time is of the essence. And whatever tools you have, you make them, like, I've watched you work so much more with less. You know, if like things are like falling apart in a venue somewhere in Florida, you just made it work and made it, and like night after night, you made, Goat Horse sound amazing.
Well, thank you, sir.
I mean, yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I don't say that because you're a friend of mine. I mean, yeah, a little bit, but but no, it was awesome to watch you work and do your thing, because I know it's not easy, especially with some of the equipment that you were had to use.
And I don't know if I would ever just on the nose say this is not easy, but in situations like that, I do enjoy a good challenge, and so that's how I choose to look at it.
Right.
It's like maybe the venue's acoustics are less than ideal, or maybe the venue's PA system is not up to 100% working standards, or maybe we got there late and we don't have a lot of time to get this done.
Yeah. We're all running on fumes.
Yeah. These things are just challenges to be overcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes it's not easy, but I mean, there's a million phrases about doing easy things versus doing hard things.
Yeah.
The hard things, we do them because of what we're going to get out of it later.
Yeah. So I'm really curious, musically, what kind of background you came from. I mean, I know you're in Writhings. I mean, I make no secret about it. Writhings is probably my favorite band in Lafayette. I mean, aside, I mean, yes, Golgothan's my boys, Pale Misery's my boys, but man, it's just something about Writhings that just, y'all blend in everything I love. Black metal, D-beat, hardcore crust, sludge. I mean, that's what I grew up on, and that's what, I mean,
what?
Y'all my brothers, y'all my boys.
We love you, dude. As you roll off those genres, like, yeah, we embodied a lot of that, and that's because that's a culmination of all of our influences.
Yeah.
Myself in particular, I was what I consider a latecomer to metal. I didn't know much about it until late in middle school, where I guess maybe a lot of other people in my age group had already discovered your Metallicas and Panteras and stuff.
Yeah.
But actually, I credit one of my oldest, dearest friends, Jesse Clark, with this. One day we were skipping PE, not dressed out. He had his CD player, and he was listening to Dimmu Borgir.
Oh, wow.
And I'd never heard anything like that before.
Some fancy black
it
metal.
Kind of just kicked the door wide open for me. You're editing this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not. I like to keep it organic as possible.
Fair enough.
We're gonna take
I'm just getting a bit of
a quick pause for allergies here.
Brought to you by
Doritos. What you got? Lime.
I got lime.
I got pineapple. Who was it? It was TA, actually. It was TA in Pensacola that said, Mo, you ever had a Doritos? And we were at that restaurant. We ate outdoors in Pensacola, the Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know the name. I couldn't tell you either. But I just remember like they had a bucket of ice and a bunch of Doritos. Mm-hmm. And I think it was the Mandarin I had.
There you go.
And I think they had strawberry or something like that. And I think I went with the safe play with strawberry, and I was like, man, that shit's good.
They're all good.
Yeah. So, and then we just went to the local Shell station, and boom.
Yep.
Not sponsored, by the way, Doritos.
Yeah.
Let's make that happen.
Yeah. Kick it down some.
Yep. So continue. Jesse Clark.
Dimmu Borgir, yes.
Dimmu Borgir.
Kick the Door Open, etc. Up to that point, my musical exposure had been, things my parents listened to. Interestingly, my mom listened to a lot of the pop rock of the time, things like Alanis Morissette or 311. But she also listened to some interesting, darker stuff like Portishead is one of my favorites that I still almost listen to every day.
Yeah, same. The live album in New York is
Roseland Ballroom.
Yes, it's constant rotation on my radio.
I eventually would later get to visit that place before it finally shut its doors on one of my first tours I did. But, and then my stepdad would listen to a lot of industrial. He would listen to it while he draw on the computer. He's an architect.
Okay.
So a lot of KMFDM, 9 Inch Nails, and some weirder stuff like Primus. So this is what I had under my belt going into middle school.
Yeah.
And, where I might have been late with the heavy metal, nobody else was listening to Primus except me and a few of my close friends.
Right.
Who were like, what are you listening to? We'd just keep it on repeat. I don't know how many times I listened to Too Many Puppies when I was probably 14 years old.
Yeah.
I was like, this is crazy music.
This
is so much fun to listen to. And it's fun to try to play. I was learning to play the drums, and I'd try to play this stuff.
Yeah.
So
Tim Alexander is a great fucking drummer too.
He is, and he's a cool human too.
You met him?
Yeah, one of the first tours I did, or the first tour I did with Mastodon was a co-headline. So yeah, that was actually an experience I like to remark on and keep it fresh in my memory. On day one of the tour with Mastodon and Primus, this was it was kind of a culmination in a moment where I realized how far I'd come and how cool what I get to do is. It doesn't always happen that way.
Right.
But I had a moment for day one of this tour.
Now, how long ago was this?
4 years? I'd have to check the date. I don't remember what month or time of year it was.
About 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're at Red Rocks, which I'd been to before, but this time was pretty different because it was with a couple of bands I'd listened to and respected for a long time, especially in the case of Primus, since I was pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to need to do laundry that day. I had already been away from home prior to that. So I'm on stage in what is essentially my office, my monitor world, if you will, with an array of equipment that I've selected that has been hired for me to use for the whole tour, which is a cool step up. Usually I'm having to deal with what venues provide, but on this tour and subsequent tours, I got to decide what I was going to use. That was pretty great. Doing my laundry in my monitor world, and Primus is on stage sound checking, and I look up at Red Rocks. I'm like, damn, dude.
This is happening.
This is happening.
Never been to that venue, but I've seen loads of concert footage all over YouTube, and
I mean,
it just looks and sounds awesome.
It's a special place, dude.
Yeah.
There's a few places like that in the world that when you get to do it, you're like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been since Red Rocks, I guess, updated their roof structure of the stage so it could support more weight of hanging production elements.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I guess there's a potential for even bigger and badder shows to show up.
Wow. I think one of my favorites that I watched was Opeth. And they did, if you're going to tell me you work sound for that one, I'll be pissed.
No, but we did later. Mastodon did later tour with Opeth.
I remember that.
They have toured with Opeth many times, but I have also done 2 of those tours.
That's crazy.
Wasn't that Red Rocks though?
Yeah, I mean they did the some cuts from Damnation, and it just, man.
Yeah, in a space like that, it's almost tailor made for the epicness of that space.
Nice choice of words, tailor made there. Salute.
Salut.
That's good stuff. So, 4 years of working professionally as a sound personnel, you've seen some shit.
Well,
It would be fair to say, right?
Well, to back up, I've been doing this for more than 4 years.
Okay, yeah.
4 years ago, I was in Red Rocks with Mastodon.
Oh, okay.
and
All right.
Primus.
Let's go back then.
But I've been doing sound professionally, more or less, for
Since you were 18?
and I just celebrated my 34th birthday. So 16 years playing with audio toys.
That's awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You among others live a certain life that I wish I could afford to do.
Hey, man, there's enough culture out there for everybody.
Here we go. Here we go. He just said the buzzword right there, culture. Yeah. I remember, it was just a short time ago that I remember that, certain fellas, such as yourself, were trying to get me cultured. And, my hat's off to y'all. Y'all did what y'all could.
Well, we figured you were worthy,
Mm-hmm.
You, too, could experience all of it, any of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm open.
The wet and the dry. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So, drawing back from that experience of culture, and what are some of the the most interesting tales that you could tell us that happened as a result of touring with bands like Mastodon or Primus or Opeth even?
Well, I'm gonna warn you now. Some of my best stuff that I've experienced, I have a problem with memory.
Okay.
Believe it ties into ADHD. It's not worth discussing that much. But I got a few highlights in there that I try to hold on to. There was one experience where I was touring with a band called Airborne.
Mm-hmm.
And we were up in Canada in Kamloops or Kelowna. I get those two mixed up. But one of those towns is on a really beautiful lake that almost resembles a fjord.
Wow.
And we have a day off, and the boys in the band decide they want to hire a speedboat and go out on the lake. But they'd like to drink heavily while they do. And I drink, but I don't drink that much. I don't get drunk usually. And they knew this, and they were like, would you drive the boat? I was like, you don't even have to ask, of course. So somewhere in the archives of my computer, I have a few photos and videos of this episode, and AC/DC is blaring on the boat speakers, and everybody's got a beer in hand, and we're just hauling ass down this fjord-looking lake in Canada. And that was one of a series of strange highlights on a strange trip.
Yeah.
Touring through Canada is kind of like touring through the United States,
Mm-hmm.
but everything's just a little adjusted somehow.
Yeah.
But Canada's got some of the most beautiful wilderness I've ever seen. Another highlight on that tour was having a night off in Banff, up in the Rockies.
Yeah.
There was another one. I don't even remember where we were, but I think it was somewhere near Sault Ste. Marie. The opening band on our tour was from nearby, and they knew of a campground we could park the tour bus. And the Airborne camp loves to, when we're parked up or they're parked up, they like to bust out the grill, and it's like, do it that way rather than like everybody
Go get some
to
Denny's or some shit.
Yeah, which I thought was great. So we did this. This was no exception, but I remember the tour manager had gone for a walk in the evening, and he came back with a report of having been stalked by some sort of large prey cat. I don't remember what they had up there, what he said it was, but some of my fondest memories are on tour, just things that have been done in nature around the world.
Yeah.
That's just my personality.
Yeah.
But there's also been some really great city experiences. I've developed a love for a lot of different cities across all my travels. Some places I'd never heard of, other places I'd never thought I would enjoy.
Yeah.
And other places I didn't enjoy as much as I thought.
Right.
It's all a mixed bag.
What are like some of the most notable cities that you visited here in the States?
In the States,
that you would go back to in a heartbeat?
one that really surprised me that I always enjoy visiting is Asbury Park, New Jersey, home of the boss, Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah. Born in America.
Exactly. So it's a weird New Jersey beach town. Beaches up there are always weird to me because I'm used to the Gulf of Mexico beaches. But it's got a lot of interesting stuff popping off in the town. Aside from its history, it's got a bunch of new people doing interesting new things. And my favorite ice cream parlor in the world is a place called Cookman Creamery that makes non-dairy ice cream that tastes better than most dairy ice cream I've ever had.
Oh, yeah.
So if nothing else, I always look forward to that.
I remember we were walking in that big, what'd you call that? It was like a food flea market in Miami.
Oh, yeah.
And we stopped at that, the one non-dairy, all vegan ice cream. Soft serve. I remember you enjoyed the fuck out of that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll eat any kind of ice cream, really.
I'm gonna keep it creamy with you, dog. I'm gonna keep it creamy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't turn my nose up at any proposed ice cream, but I am somewhat lactose intolerant, so I try to steer towards the vegan stuff. So, as much as I enjoy it, everyone enjoys me for the next few hours afterwards, and it's not a problem. You know what I'm saying?
I think they had to have some buttercream in that etouffee earlier.
Oh, yeah? You feeling some kind of way about it?
I'm feeling some kind of way about it.
You know what? It was worth it.
It really was. Shout out to Becky Mushmack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Best part about it is we're the only ones who got to enjoy it.
That's correct.
Other people did not get to enjoy it.
Yeah, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Should have showed up.
Should have showed up for work, babe. Should have showed up. But, I mean, being on the road has to be, it has to be a grind in itself.
It is, man. After really not that long of a career of it, but long enough that it detracted me from where some of my longer term goals are. Mm-hmm. And it prompted me to take a closer look at how I'm having to spend most of my time. When you tour, you might not be like working, doing a particular job most of the time. Yeah. Which is great if you love traveling, because I do, and I leverage that free time a lot to explore and get cultured. But it's a lot of time spent away from your roots, away from your nest, away from your people.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to build things that last, it makes it really, really hard.
Yeah.
Be it a business or a family, or what have you. And I feel pretty fortunate that was able to kind of see that for myself and decide, all right, maybe I need to make some adjustments to this.
Yeah. Maybe I don't have to be on the road 362 days of the year.
Which, even then, I never toured a full year.
Okay.
It's always here and there, but it doesn't matter. It adds up nonetheless.
Yeah.
You start to realize how you interact with people back home differently than how you might if you had just been there all along. Like, your sense of time and the way things develop over the course of months, it's different. Like, it's a lot to delve into and explain, but suffice it to say,
We got time, buddy.
Well,
That's why we here.
fair enough. I mean, I had started to notice that, I wouldn't hear from friends and family as much as I would think about, why am I not hearing from friends and family? And like, I guess they had gotten used to, oh, we'll see Taylor in a month or whatever.
Yeah.
Because for them, their interactions with me take place over the course of a year, like a couple times over the course of a year.
Yeah, and for
I'm present.
Yeah, and for you, when you get back home, it's like, I just talked to you yesterday or something like that.
Yeah, like when I was last home, or it's like when I'm on tour, I'm all over the place. So I, in effect, was trying to like bridge the times where I was home together as if they were seamless, as if I hadn't been gone that whole time, but I had. So yeah, it just really screwed up the sense of time and how I would be able to interact with people I cared about. And on top of that, it's, like I said, hard to sow seeds for things for the future, for the long term. If I want to, like, I've long aspired to, have a deeper level interaction with a music scene, if you will.
Yeah.
I've been interested to either own and operate a studio or a venue or a combination of those things.
Right.
Kind of hard to do when you're not here and nobody even knows who you are.
Right. Like, I've been here all my life. No, you haven't.
Yeah, exactly. I was born and raised here. I managed to go out and develop most of the skills I would need to succeed at those types of business endeavors, but like, I'm totally out of touch.
Yeah.
So it's been a bit of a refocus and figuring out how to reconnect so I can build those long-term things.
Yeah.
And, try to make sure I still keep one foot in the touring world so that I can actually go out and make my money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because you got to, like all of us, you got to pay the bills somehow.
That's right. And I mean, there's some amount of work to be had for me around here, but to be quite frank, it pays much better to travel.
Right.
So, got to do it.
Got to do it. What was some of the funnest gigs aside from Mastodon, and because I know you tour with them extensively, and but I guess I'm curious to know, what are some of the venues or some of the other bands, not named Airborne, whoever, that you just got a feel for the band, felt like, what, hey, this is a good time, and I can make this work.
I had a really good time touring with a band from Australia called King Parrot.
Oh, yeah.
It's a grindcore band, which I love fringe music genres.
Yeah.
Like things that are just extreme in one sort of way or another, whatever that way is. And King Parrot's no exception.
Like you said, makes you feel a certain way.
Yeah. So the music is very extreme, but they're also fucking hilarious. I don't know if you've ever seen any of their videos.
I did.
They're just funny, and they're like that in person. They're just funny, right up until the point where everybody's been in the van for 10 hours and we're all fucking beat and sick of each other. That happens anywhere, but outside of that, like, they were just a pleasure to be around and, like, made me want to do it, even though at the time it was sort of like, I'm reluctant to use the term step down because it was still a good thing for me and a good move. But like at that point, I had toured in buses or traveled in airplanes, and we were traveling in a van.
Right.
I got pretty lucky on my first couple of tours. I didn't have to travel that way. I traveled in a
It was
tour
just
bus.
a different tier of band, you could say.
And after doing that, I've actually done several bands subsequently in different orders, in different travel arrangements. So it's like, I was like, okay, it's not, like I said, I was reluctant to use the term step down. It wasn't really like that.
Right.
Since then, I've toured with bands that traveled really expensively and other ones that have traveled on a budget. And It's all mixed in, whatever.
Yeah.
Honestly, the tours like that travel on a budget are usually a little more endearing and fun.
Yeah.
Than the high budget ones.
You kind of get a sense of family at the end of it, you know.
I'm kind of able to glean different things from those different types of touring scenarios. When there's a lot of money and we travel well, I take those times to enjoy myself on an introverted level, and I explore by myself a lot and go out for meals a lot, and it's usually just me.
Yeah.
But on these tours where you're all grouped together in a small space for extended periods of time, you have to find some way to, you know, if nothing else, commiserate, but hopefully also like come together.
Yeah. And kind of just.
Yeah. So that's when I, you know, it's more of a social thing. So I get something out of it either way. Try to.
Yeah. Sometimes you get lucky, man. You get to, share a room where, it's not too much culture going on, but there's bathrobes.
How is that not culture?
I mean, I felt cultured.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
We only want the best for you, buddy.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. And likewise, too.
Other people go out there and do what they got to do so that you can wear that bathrobe.
Fucking right. Amen. So
there's also other things I've done that aren't touring per se.
Yeah.
One of my favorite clients, and they are clients, but they're also my friends. My best clients are my friends when it comes down to it. People that I just really enjoy spending time with when I'm not on the clock.
Yeah.
There's a group out of North Carolina called Highland Echoes that does this sort of Scottish traditional song and dance, if you will. And I felt a strong connection to what they were trying to do because I do believe somewhere up in my genealogy there's a Scottish element. But Scotland and France have a lot of ties together.
Yeah.
And Acadiana and France obviously have ties. I just felt
kind of like
sort
a
of kindred to the
kindred
story
spirits
of what they were trying to represent. Even if for no other reason than the same sort of folk instrument voicing that they use, got the fiddle and the acoustic guitar. But they're just a pleasure to work with. And they also wanted to entrust me with my skill set and my creativity to bring their show to another level. And that was something I hadn't experienced quite yet. I'm used to people having some kind of idea of what they want to achieve and just expecting me as a professional to achieve it for them.
Yeah.
And these people do have that, but they also want me to take part in the success and the building of the creativity and all that. And that kind of showed me, or it helped remind me what I really want more of in my career and my life is situations like that, where I can be part of a group with a common goal where, let's figure out how to build the things we want for ourselves and others and pay our bills with it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like the secret sauce.
It really is a secret sauce because at that point, it's not work.
No.
It's like you're present in the moment with someone. You got like-minded individuals, like you said, trying to achieve a certain goal.
Yeah.
It just takes teamwork to a whole other level. Yeah. And then it's like you find zen in that.
Yeah.
Lack of a better word. I too, am like that kind of leaning towards that type of role eventually. It's like the more, the podcast reaches more people. Like I got people from, West Virginia who found the podcast. Like, dude, love what you do. I'm like, dude, I didn't think anyone was listening. So thank you. Thanks for buying a shirt.
Yeah.
Because that kind of stuff will like just only help, not only me, but help Patrick, who does the merch for us and stuff like that,
Yeah, it helps other members of the community.
Exactly. I'm all about it.
Yeah, dude. And, I'm sure I speak for everybody who you've had here in our gratitude for the fact that it even exists, that you chose to do this and take the time to do it. And, you get what you get out of it, but, it gives a little I don't know if you'd call it a peek behind the curtain, but just a sort of fresh look at people that are a part of this particular community.
Yeah.
The heavy metal community.
Exactly. Because, I say all the time, man, there was nobody archiving, bands especially from Louisiana.
Well,
except for people like Bobby Bergeron with Paranoise, and
I got another one for you that a lot of people didn't know about, and it's still sort of there in a nebulous way. But there's a website called the Louisiana Music Archive.
Yes, with Larry, right?
Larry Trumbatori?
Yes.
Not that.
Okay.
I can't remember the one he was doing,
mm-hmm.
but this is one that at least one person named Brett that I used to play in a band in took part in, and they basically just had a website full of links to bands, and
mm-hmm.
it was listed by city.
Oh, wow.
Alexandria, Lake Charles, Lafayette, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and I guess Shreveport. That was, for me, when I was a teenager, a huge resource.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, we still had Toys Music Center and Main Street, all ages venues, and I had just started going to Club Sin, but before, or I guess right around the same time that Facebook was sort of taking off, people were using MySpace for music.
Right.
Louisiana Music Archive and other places like that were a great resource to figure out who was playing, but the internet was limited at the time. It was not always easy to listen to these bands like it is now.
Yeah.
So with the advent of the podcast, we've got this whole new medium of, now we don't just have a list of names on a computer. Like, we've got voices and personalities to go with them.
Right. I love it doing it. It was just like my warped dream of becoming a broadcast DJ or something like that. I don't have to work and be a slave to a corporation and not play the shit I want to, and not be governed by anyone. I mean, everything so far that I put out, has been listened to, so that's great. But I really appreciate that kudos, man. It means a lot to me because, there's no real money involved in this. It's just this labor of love, and just, I'm really passionate about other like musicians like yourself and in the area, and getting to know artists on a first name basis has just been like the added bonus of this, and it's awesome. But so what's next in line for you? Where are you going from here? Besides home, I know that, but
well, I'm in the middle of a season of doing these floating festivals, if you will.
Yeah,
basically music cruises,
mm-hmm.
which have been, for the last 10 years, I've been doing them on and off. It's always been something of a dream gig, because it's like working at a venue, but it's also like working at a festival, but it's also like being on vacation.
Yeah.
It's an interesting mixture of things that makes it pretty comfy. So I got a few more of those this season. And then after that, things are kind of open, but with a direction. I'm
mm-hmm.
focused on recentering my skills and my efforts back here at home in Acadiana. Finding other interested people and business owners whose ears I can manage to grab and convince that what I have to offer is worth their time.
Right.
And trying to see what I can build that's longer lasting.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, if you don't mind me saying so, I remember you and I had a long discussion about, putting together a production company or something like that, getting involved. And I'm totally,
we still talk
we still talk about, and it's we're definitely investigating and leaving no stone unturned to get something off the ground with that. And I can't wait for the future.
Yeah, me either, man. I mean, a few people might still remember the days that Grant Street Dance Hall was active, and it really put Lafayette on the map for touring bands. I remember when I first started touring, I would tell people where I was from, and they would think of Grant Street because it was a stop. It was a normal stop on a lot of lower and mid-level tours.
Yep.
And it's not been that way for a while for Grant Street, but also for the town. Nobody's stopping through. Even New Orleans these days has a little bit of trouble getting tours to stop as often.
And I think, you could attribute that or contribute that to, just the increase in like violence in New Orleans. I mean,
I guess you could.
And
there's probably a number of things.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many factors to play into it, but it's like, I guess a lot of touring cycles fall in between, April and November. And what's in between that? Hurricane season.
Yeah.
It's like someone will be really hard pressed to stop in like South Louisiana. I get it.
Well, and at the same time, the precedent was already in place. Bands did stop here.
Yes.
And now they don't. So I don't know that, I don't know what to say about New Orleans, but here in town, we definitely just don't have the facility or the support that touring bands would need to stop.
Yeah.
And that's that's a personal agenda of mine that I'm somewhat after, is trying to get people thinking about that again.
Yeah.
I got a selfish bias in that I'm a member of the concert industry. It's my bread and butter. But near as I can tell from everybody I talk to, most people like going to concerts.
Oh, yeah.
They like going to high quality concerts, and they like having the bands come to them that they enjoy.
Yeah.
And these are all things that used to occur and can occur again.
Yeah. Because people are definitely like, they're willing to make a drive, but it seems like more and more now people are making that drive, further west or further east, like go and see someone in Florida, go see someone in Houston or something like that, because like you said, like a lot of bands are just kind of like, bypassing art, like Lafayette, New Orleans even. But, I think that, I know, like you said, that there's so many, it's a niche market as far as like metal's concerned. Yeah. But whenever a band, say like Goat Whore, I Hate God, or even Thou, like whenever these local bands play in Lafayette, people are getting, turned around at the door because they're at max capacity.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
That's the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, great for the venue. They've sold
out.
Yeah,
great for the venue.
But how does it reflect on the town at large? It's like, okay, people want this. And they're unable to attain it like they once were. And this is almost wider than just metal. Metal's definitely a victim in that. But there are plenty of other, almost any other genre you could think of would benefit from, hypothetically, like a Grant Street existing today.
Right.
And I argue even more so a real music venue that allows people of all ages to attend shows.
Yes.
And the other thing a lot of people don't consider is that nowadays concert production has entered a sort of new echelon, and bands and concert goers alike seem to expect a high level of production because ticket prices are definitely not cheaper.
No.
But there's a general expectation to have high quality sound and lights at the very least, unless the band's also carrying special equipment to do like video or lasers or whatever special effects that add or enhance their show in the way they want.
Yeah.
Currently, there's not much to be offered to bands that want to hold those standards here in the Acadiana area. There's a couple places, one of which is the Acadiana Center for the Arts, which is a lovely place that has a pretty high standard of production, but doesn't really cater to a wide area of genres.
Yeah.
And then any other place in town that even comes close to that, same thing. Everybody's like hyper focused on either roots music or, the core of our culture, which is Cajun and Zydeco. And all those things are wonderful, but it's not all there is.
No, there's more to it.
I mean, we're here on a metal podcast talking about metal, but, there's plenty of talented hip hop artists here in town and who would pass through. There's plenty of talented, if you're into electronic music, if you're into different types of jazz, which there's a whole world there to be explored. That I mean, just jazz alone, is used to be represented here as well. You
got a bunch
to have dedicated jazz clubs, and I think there's a place on Pinhook now that might have jazz bands again. But
really.
And then maybe one or two places downtown will occasionally have one. But just what I'm trying to get at is there's no one place that is an open door for any and all artists and any and all concert goers of any age.
Yeah.
It just really isn't.
No. And that's sad, man, because, there's so much music, popping up these days. More than you could shake a stick at. And they just want to get their name out there. They want to get, people exposed to whatever they're doing. And a lot of talent, sadly, to say, it's just, kind of dying on the vine, if you will.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, we don't have the place for them. Yeah. But hopefully that soon changes.
Yeah, man. Like I said, if we're talking about what's next for me, I plan on putting a lot of my energy in that direction and seeing what I can make happen.
Fucking A.
And everybody out there listening, let Mo know how much you do or don't agree with this. If you feel like you want to see a venue where you can take your kids to see a metal show, for example.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to have a nice night and not have to worry about, kind of lost my train of thought on that one. But
what are some of the worst things could happen with kids in a all ages show?
People do have a concern about that because, concerts are associated with drinking or vice versa.
Right.
And, we live in the South. We live in South Louisiana.
We live in a place that not only do people drink, but unfortunately they drink and drive because of the outpouring of like drive-through daiquiri shops.
Yeah.
Things of that nature.
So, there's a bit of a stigma with that.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of people out there who can responsibly attend a concert and have a drink or two and it not be a problem.
Yeah.
But I want to hopefully steer the need for that or, tamper it a bit. It's like, okay, you could have a drink and go to a show, but you don't need to.
Yeah.
Especially if you were lucky enough to have a place that's located near those services. You could have a drink before or after.
Right.
Just go to focus on the show.
Yeah.
On the entertainment.
Because there's so many fucking good bands in this town. Alone. And then like you open up the radius around Lafayette. There's we're talking about bands in New Orleans, Hammond, Ponchatoula, Alexandria, even Shreveport. Bands come down and and they expose us to a lot of different things. And let that be the focus. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, man,
100%. So what I really am curious about, because you and I have this passion for music, obviously, and I know just from being having to live with you for like four shows on the road in Florida, you're a very diverse individual, and with that diversity comes, I'm sure you got some favorites. So what are 6 albums that you cannot live without?
Well, I had mentioned earlier that I listen to Portishead pretty frequently.
Yeah.
I think either of their 2 studio albums.
Dummy.
Either one.
Yeah.
Well, I guess there were 3. I didn't care for third that much, but the first 2. Any of a particular 3 Opeth albums, Ghost Reveries, Damnation, or Blackwater Park.
Yeah. Those are really
interchangeable
good.
because I love them equally.
Yeah.
So that now we're at 2.
At 2.
311's Transistor, which throws people sometimes when I talk about 311.
Well, I thought I was the only one that loved that album. That's what threw me off.
Well, I think it's a particularly well done album.
It really
from
is.
A number of angles. Many people can't get past the white boy reggae element.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. People got hang-ups about 311. A lot of hang-ups about 311 come from the behavior of their fan base.
Yeah. They're rabid.
I get it.
They are rabid fans.
Actually, in a couple of days, I fly out to do another one of these cruises. This particular one is the 311 cruise.
Oh, shit.
And I'm not actually that excited about it.
Uh-huh.
I just like listening to that one particular record and a few others, but that's one I can't live without.
Okay.
It influenced me as a musician and a music lover very heavily when I was very young. That was one of the records my mom had.
Right.
As well as the Portishead record.
Mm-hmm.
So these are going back to like my roots and
right.
things that I've never not listened to. So that's 3. What else? There's a few too many to pick one, but I would have to have on my Desert Island playlist one album from New Orleans metal scene. That could be a Soylent Green record. It could be an Acid Bath record, a Down record, a Crowbar record, an I Hate God record, something like that.
Yeah.
That has that flavor. They all kind of give me, in a way, the same vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what makes that town have the scene or genre that it does.
Right.
It's what it is defined by it. So all of those bands have something different to offer, but they all kind of hit me in the same sort of way.
And a lot of those musicians from those bands you name, I mean, all like
they're 1 degree
commingled.
They're 1 degree.
They all commingled at one point or another.
Yes.
You know,
so,
I love it.
I mean, yeah, people might raise an eyebrow to that and like, oh, this or that is this way because that, or it's like, no, they're part of a scene and there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
And like I said, for me personally, they all sort of hit in the same way. So
yeah,
any one of those. That
4.
puts us
That's
at
4.
4. Where to go from there?
Where do you go from there?
I think I would have to have one classic New York hip hop record. And I know I'm being a little nebulous with some of these because, you know, like you said,
You're very
diverse.
You're very diverse.
It's hard to really say this is the one.
Yeah.
But I find myself regularly listening to the likes of Wu-Tang Clan or
Tribe Called Quest. Yep.
Things like that. There's vibe to those records that in the same way as these New Orleans metal bands, they hit me in a certain way, and it takes me mentally, sort of viscerally to New York.
Yeah.
I can place myself there when I listen to those things.
Last one.
Give me a few minutes to think about that.
All right.
While we maybe discuss something else.
All right. Let's discuss something else. Let's discuss your band, Writhings.
Cool.
How did this come about?
So I had for a couple of years prior been interested to start a hardcore band that would kind of just be for fun because I was very career focused and, you know, I wouldn't have time to do something that I could really commit to and do a shitload with.
Yeah.
I want something that would just be fast and ornery and a great way to get like just a good stress relief.
Yeah.
Something fun. I had initially reached out to a cat named Mike Boyne that you might know, interested to see what he had been up to, see if he wanted to play music. He's got whatever he's got going on at the time, so he introduces me to Sean Evans.
Mm-hmm.
I'd kind of known who Sean was prior, but like I said, I've been out of touch traveling.
Right.
A lot of people don't know who I am, so we didn't really know each other, but we clicked pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Not long after we started talking, he sent me something he had worked on, and right then and there, I started recording drum ideas for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the drum part I wrote initially for that is what I play to this day on that song. But sort of coinciding with that, I'd also somehow become Facebook friends with Luke Baker.
Mm-hmm.
And had seen that he had become available as a musician.
He's formerly of forming the Void.
Yeah, he was formerly the Void. So I reached out to him to see if he'd be interested in trying to play some music. Little did I know at the same time, Sean's lovely miss had been working with Luke at
Whole Foods.
And they had also been talking. So it's like, okay, at this point, it's kismet. If we're like,
yeah,
we came at this from two separate angles, unbeknownst. Like, all right, well, yeah, let's get together. And, you know, to sort of double back on how I was looking to just do a hardcore band for fun,
mm-hmm.
I didn't expect to become as inspired as I did, nor did I expect to have as much free time to give this as I did. And I found the sort of hardcore DB genre a really interesting palette to put some of my other influences on.
Yeah.
And I can't really speak for anybody else, but I think that sort of idea is still there.
Mm-hmm.
I love playing my drums in lots of different ways. I really love playing like bebop and jazz licks, and I love playing like fast death metal
blast
sometimes,
beats,
which I'm not very good at. I can only keep up for a short amount of time compared to people who do that a lot more. It's not what I would say is my specialty, but I like doing it sometimes.
Right.
I like to play funk and backbeat music. I like to play Latin sounding stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like to play in a lot of different ways. And somehow, what started coming out of me playing with Sean and Luke, it was just like, I don't know, felt very comfortable and natural and free.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to do more and more.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that, you know, I got to know y'all guys on a first name basis and hang out with you guys because, you know, every now and then I get thrown a bone of what you're working on, and I told Sean the last clip he had sent me, just like, yeah, that sounds like Writhings. That sounds like fucking like you're getting beat in the head relentlessly, and the beating won't stop, you know, until that last note. And I love it. It's just fucking like,
yeah, that's definitely important to us in the music. Is it has to be punishing at all times.
And the drums, dude, like your drums, the way you record them, like everything sounds big, like a big, vast, empty hall that you're just love it.
Which a hall actually does play into that sound.
Uh-huh.
We recorded all the drums for that EP we released at my house that I was living at the time in Arnaville, in a little area called Frozard.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful old house, had a really good sonic character, to be honest. It just sounded good.
Yeah.
And to give a little studio trickery away, this is something I'd picked up from, I believe, in reading a book by an engineer and producer called Sylvia Massey called Recording Unhinged.
Oh, yeah. A producer of Tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
At some point in her book, she talks about placing a microphone in an adjacent bathroom or closet or whatever to the room that the instrument you're capturing is in. I'm like, all right, I want to give this a try. So I put a mic in my bathroom. That was the next room over from my live room.
Yeah.
And what I got astonished me, frankly. And it astonished me in more than one way, because depending on if I had the door to the drum room or the bathroom open or closed, I could completely alter the drum sound.
Yeah.
Without doing any processing.
That's wild.
No actual mixing, just changing the acoustic environment between my drums and this mic next door.
And it gave you that big hall-like feeling?
If I left the doors open, yeah. If I left them closed, what it did was just give me a really nice, solid, warm room sound for the drums to exist in, so it didn't sound stale or dry.
Did it sound like claustrophobic whenever you had the doors closed?
No. In fact, most of the EP is recorded that way.
Okay.
Only on part of 2 songs were the doors open to achieve a sound that was better for those songs.
So we're getting to the nerdery part of production and recording, and you just see how like my excitement kind of gets up, because I'm really curious how to do this.
Well, here's the thing about how to do this is, like, yeah, there's books about how to do this.
Yeah.
But a lot of the coolest shit you've ever heard was just people being innovative and creative and trying shit.
Yeah.
And to me, that's more important than any amount of technical knowledge.
Yeah.
That shit's really important, actually.
Right.
Let me not downplay that. You need to know how your gear works.
Yeah.
You need to know how it works before you buy it or invest in it, especially because you could very easily waste precious resources buying shit that you didn't need, or is not going to work as well as you thought, or you don't know how to use it. Whatever. You need to have that knowledge, but you need to be unafraid to try shit.
Right.
Whatever it is. That's how you make unique records.
Yeah, I'm still going to lean on you, though. You know,
I mean, lean on me, but you may find me and you learning in real time about shit.
Oh,
as we
okay.
try it, because, like I said, some of the coolest shit you've ever heard on records you love is just people being innovative in those moments.
One song that you and I both were listening to on the Goat Whore tour in Florida was
Ass and Titties.
Ass and Titties. Ass.
Where's the little horn? Yeah. Yeah, son.
Yeah, son. Yeah, we actually dissected Ass and Titties for a while.
Yep.
Still to this day. And no, but in all seriousness, we were jamming to Inner Arma's Stillness.
Yeah.
And we talked about how they recorded that the drums sound so fucking huge in that track, man.
Everything sounds huge on the track. Every single piece of it.
Yeah.
Without it being muddy or in each other's way.
Mm-hmm.
That particular record is my number 6 now.
There you go.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Shit, yes.
Because I'm such a big fan of the way it sounds. I
Right.
think the music's great and the performances are very good. But I'm just kind of in love with the sonics of it.
Yes.
It achieves a number of things that are not necessarily easy to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they cover a lot of dark tones and a lot of big airy spaces without, like I said, it being muddy. It's not as easy as one might think.
Yeah.
So I hope one day to, corner some of those dudes and pick their brain about it.
Right.
I'm not sure I should have already looked this up by now.
I think
I was a real nerd, but I don't know who produced or recorded that record. Maybe even don't tell me. Maybe it's better having a little bit of mystery.
Mystery?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think they used someone local and
to their area?
Yeah, in the Richmond, Virginia area, I think, something like that. because they were really enamored with the type of sounds that he gets, primarily on the drums. Because the chief songwriter, TJ, is
I don't know any of their names.
I think
I'm terrible with names. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's TJ, the drummer. I mean, he comes up. He's been playing drums since he was like fucking 7-8 years old.
Yeah,
and he knew what kind of sound. He always knows what kind of sound he wants, and and the production and whatnot. I just read about this, and I like how they used high ceilings and shit like that. Would go into wherever and just blast away.
Yeah.
So I like that, man. The way y'all doing it, the way that y'all recording the Writhings albums and EPs and whatnot, it's like having a local Inner Armor with a pulse.
Right on.
Yeah.
I enjoy that comment. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with Inner Armor because there's not like I mean, they tour.
Yeah.
I don't know how widely known they are.
Yeah.
I kind of just stumbled on them. No one really told me about them.
I actually got into them the same year I started playing guitar, and I've been like a big fan of theirs ever since. I want to say the first track I heard was the Long Road Home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and when I heard that the lyrics were talking about a combination of like military PTSD, depression, and suicide and shit of that nature, I was like, oh man, this is some dark, close to home undertone stuff that that me personally I go through, and the lyrics are just so fucking haunting. I have to listen to that song at least once a week. I just do. It's just it makes me feel a certain way. I love the way it makes me feel, and it's just their catalog, and I think they're getting ready to unleash another one pretty soon.
I can't wait.
I know, me neither, man. Those boys from Virginia know what the fuck they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, shout out to Inner Armor.
For sure.
For sure. So, man, I'm kind of really curious, like when your mindset, you come to a state of being really open, like naturally open, while being on tour. And I just noticed that you were really reluctant to say no to anything.
In terms of what?
In terms of being cultured. It's like anything goes.
Well, a phrase I like to use really often is "it takes all kinds."
Yeah.
And that's more than just personalities. It takes all kinds of experiences and slices of life to really, I don't know. I'm about experiencing it all.
Yeah.
More or less.
Within,
my frame, within my, I'm reluctant to use the word comfort zone because I try to push that a lot. I try to push it on people a lot too. Push people outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
Not everybody appreciates that.
I appreciate that.
But I mean, it's like no risk, no reward, right?
Right.
There's a lot to be gained from trying new things.
I got you. Well, I just want to say thank you, Taylor, for getting on this episode, coming to the podcast, man, teaching me a whole lot of things that I didn't know about, getting personal, getting intimate with you, if you will. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. You can catch Tales from the Riff at Instagram or on Facebook. I think I may have a TikTok out there. We'll see. But Taylor is part of Writhings. You work sound, production. Where people can find you if they want to employ you, sir.
I can be reached at my email address, which is, it's pretty clever if I do say so. It's soundcajun@gmail.com. Currently sort of on hiatus from social media.
Yeah.
But if you find me on there, hit me up anyway. I might see it, I might not.
I'll definitely throw in your email address in the captions of the episode. That way people could just, shoot you an email, tell them hi. Just appreciate what the man does. He gives you culture. And you want to take that in the best way.
And also, I want you to show me your culture.
Show him your culture. Mm-hmm. Just show him what you're about.
Show me what I'm missing in life.
What you're willing to risk for culture.
But especially email me if you want to hire me to mix you.
Yeah. He'll mix you good.
Yeah.
Mummified head and skull.